U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's detention systems are full. So much so that the agency is releasing some migrant detainees. Internal government statistics obtained by CBS show ICE facilities were at 109% capacity this week. The agency is housing nearly 42,000 undocumented migrants despite only having about 38,000 beds. CBS News has learned roughly 160 migrant detainees were released from ICE custody Monday. This comes as the White House confirmed the arrival of the first migrant detainee flight at the Guantanamo Bay Naval Base in Cuba. President Trump has proposed holding as many as 30,000 people there. CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez joins us now from our Washington, D.C. bureau. So, Camilo, good to see you. Let's start with the ICE releases in the U.S. Are they still the migrant detainees still being monitored, and are there any proposed solutions?
Some of them are still being tracked by the agency, fitting them with ankle monitors to track their movements, and they are still facing deportation proceedings, which is really important to underscore, Lindsay, because these are folks who are in the country illegally, but ICE is deciding to, on a case-by-case basis, release them while those proceedings are adjudicated. And this is happening mainly for low-level offenders or people who lack criminal records, people who are determined, Lindsay, to pose a threat to public safety, such as serious criminals, or national security, such as suspected terrorists, are still being held in ICE custody. That is really important to underscore.
Camilo, this wasn't exactly unforeseeable. Journalists had been pressing then Trump campaign officials, before he was elected about the logistics of this mass deportation plan, including where they would be housed, right?
That is true, and the Trump administration is facing the same operational and legal challenges that have really bedeviled Republican and Democratic administrations on this vexing issue of immigration enforcement and border enforcement. We know that, of course, the Biden administration struggled with an unprecedented influx of migrants along the U.S.-Mexico border, and to find space to detain and house them, and also the resources to deport them to their home countries, including nations like Venezuela that to this day are still not allowing deportations from the U.S., though President Trump has announced that the Venezuelan government, Lindsay, is now going to be taking deportation flights from the U.S. And because of the limited bed capacity now that ICE is facing, the agency is trying to enlist the help of other agencies to be able to dramatically expand detention capacity. We are told by U.S. officials that Customs and Border Protection facilities along the U.S.-Mexico border that were designed to detain unaccompanied children and migrant families with minors crossing the U.S.-Mexico border are now being considered to be used to house ICE detainees arrested in the interior of the country. And of course, ICE is also turning to now the Department of Defense, which has granted the agency access to Guantanamo Bay, of course, but also a military installation in the Denver area. And we are told that more military installations, Lindsay, could be used to house immigrant detainees to, again, try to fulfill what the president has promised will be the largest deportation operation in American history.
The Trump administration has reached a deal with El Salvador to send migrant detainees and imprisoned citizens to a mega prison there. So first of all, what is the idea of sending imprisoned American citizens there, and what are the conditions like in that facility?
Well, I think it's important for us, Lindsay, to try to distinguish between the different arrangements that are being outlined here by the government in El Salvador and the Trump administration. One of them is a so-called Safe Third Country Agreement that will allow the U.S. to deport non-Salvadorian migrants who cross into the U.S. illegally to El Salvador, with instructions to request asylum there instead of in the U.S. So this could be migrants from other Central American countries, but also migrants from Venezuela and other nations that limit or outright reject U.S. deportees. One plan involves the U.S. being able to send Venezuelan gang members, or at least suspected Venezuelan gang members, who are believed to be members of the Tren de Aragua prison gang, to El Salvador, so that country can detain them in their own prisons. The other plan looks to be a law enforcement arrangement not related to immigration necessarily, Lindsay, that would allow El Salvador to house American convicts, such as citizens and legal permanent residents who are undergoing their criminal proceedings in the U.S., and to detain them in El Salvador in their maximum security prisons. And El Salvador apparently would get a monetary fee for housing those American criminal detainees. But again, that would not be necessarily an immigration arrangement. It would be sort of like a extradition treaty and a law enforcement criminal focus arrangement.
Camila Montoya Galvez, thank you.